We have got a keto pasta recipe that won't melt in your sauce. You can reheat it, you can freeze it, and you can store it in the fridge. Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to Cook with Mel. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing and hit the notification bell so you know when we posted a new recipe. It'll really help my channel and it'll only take you a second. I am absolutely blown away by this pasta recipe. We have got an almond flour version, and if you have a nut allergy, we have got a coconut flour version. And if you don't want to use any flour at all, we have got a trick to show you where you don't use any flour. The ingredients, macros, and measurements are listed in the description box. Let's get into those recipes now. The basics of each recipe is exactly the same, and I will talk you through the substitutions for almond flour, coconut flour, or no flour. So first, to your NutriBullet or blender, you're going to add 3 eggs at room temperature, and we're adding the liquids first. I'll explain why later. Next, add 1 teaspoon of olive oil and 60 grams of softened cream cheese. Now, why we soften the cream cheese is I found that after, if you don't soften it and you just put it in the blender, it still has a few lumps. So we're just gonna try and eliminate that. And it does actually work because I've tried it both ways. Now we're gonna add our almond flour, and we're adding 4 tablespoons. And lastly, 1 teaspoon of powdered gelatin. We add this last because we don't want the mixture to solidify anytime soon, just in the blender. And now, before we blend this, I'm just going to give it a quick shake because I found that when you blend it, some of the flour does get stuck at the top. So I'm just going to try and incorporate that a little bit. And now we literally blend it for about 10 seconds. Give it another shake. I feel like a bartender. And then do a final blend. That's it. Just going to show you the difference here. When I didn't shake my NutriBullet up first before blending, there was flour all caked in the lid, and now look, that's fully taken care of it. So I'm pretty happy with that. Next, you're going to need a baking sheet that has a bit of a depth, and line it with a silicone mat. And literally, you're going to pour your mixture in the center, and you can pour all of it. This is enough for a full tray. And you have 2 options of spreading this around. You could either tilt your baking sheet or baking tray like this, or you can use any flat surface, and I'm using 1 egg lifter that I think every single household will have. So that is pretty good because it's like really easy, just literally spreading liquid around. It's not fussy at all, and I hope you can tell also that it's quite liquidy at this point. So I'm just going to spread it to the edges, and I'm going to get my edges right first before I try and even out my mixture. Other thing too is my baking tray is really old, so it's not quite even in the center. So I hope yours is pretty good on that front. But you know what? My pasta sheet still came out brilliant.
I love how you're saying not quite straight. It looks like it's been in a car crash.
Yeah, well, it's got quite a dip in the middle, and I only noticed it when I was trying out this recipe before, so it was interesting.
I'll send it to the body shop on Monday.
So, I mean, you could go like right to the edges. It's not going to matter. I think just as long as you try and stay on the baking sheet. And if you don't, that's okay too. Just try your best. Okay, so now you can see there's some shading here. That means that the mixture is a bit thin in those areas. So you're just going to tilt like that and tilt like that. And now you're going to bake it in the oven for exactly 10 minutes. For our first recipe, you saw that we used 4 tablespoons of almond flour. If you're allergic to almond flour or you just prefer using coconut, substitute the almond flour with coconut flour and you would use 2 tablespoons instead of 4. Now I'm going to show you a no flour version, and for that we are using 4 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese instead of any flour. So to that again, we're starting off with 3 eggs, then 1 tablespoon of olive oil as before. It's all the same as before, just your Parmesan is the change. 4 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese and 60 grams of softened cream cheese. All these ingredients are well thought out. The cheese, the eggs, they all add to your macros to make it keto, as well as giving you your nutrients, your protein, your high fat, etc, etc. Your gelatin is going to help bind your pasta, as well as give you a little bit more protein. And lastly, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of gelatin, adding it last so it doesn't bind too quickly, and this equates to 3 grams. And remember guys, we always put our ingredients and measurements in the description box. Fill that off, give it a good shake before you blend, and blend. Shake. And a final blend. Literally pour everything into the center. Your Parmesan will be more of a liquidy consistency, but don't be fazed by that. You'll still be able to move your mixture around using the Parmesan variant, and it'll stay in place. It's just a slightly more of a liquid texture than the almond or the coconut flour. And remember, you can also flavor up this pasta. You can add turmeric if you want more of a yellow look. You can add oregano if you want more of a garlic pasta. You can add some garlic powder. It'll be so yum. While I'm doing this, here's a tip. You can freeze this pasta. You can store it in the fridge for 3 days. And you can cook this pasta in the sauce, and I'm going to show you how that performs. For the second option, we are filming with you seeing me and the process, because I want to show you how quick and easy this pasta is to make. But lastly, I want to move around the Parmesan version just so you can get an idea of, how liquidy it is. It's not too bad at all. I've just created a wedge for you. It's quite liquidy, but look at that, it seals up quite nicely, and when I move it to the edges, it does stay in place. And now we're going to bake it in the oven for exactly 10 minutes. Alright, my pasta has just been taken out the oven, and now you will need to let it cool down for 10 minutes because this gets removed all in one sheet. And when it's too hot, it might break up. So you want to let it cool, settle down, solidify a little bit. Okay, so this pasta went for exactly 10 minutes. The other flour options, I'll show you what they look like. But the coconut and almond don't have the slight browning like the Parmesan does. If you wish, you can reduce the time maybe by 1.5 minutes. But to me, this is actually a-okay. This is not burned at all. Now, how to remove it from your tray. You simply lift your silicone mat and look at that. Oh my God. And then you work the edges first. There we go. And you simply add it to your cutting board ready for, you know, whatever shape you're going to make. So of course you can do a spaghetti, you can do a fettuccine, but you can also make lasagna noodles, which would be really fantastic for this recipe. Now here is another Parmesan pasta sheet that I baked earlier, and this one went for 15 minutes, and of course you can see it has slightly darker browning and it's a bit cracked in the middle. You know, when you cut your pasta, it's not really going to make a difference. You do get all sizes, you know, of length, so I don't feel that that's going to be a deal breaker. You'll still be fine. However, you can see the difference. This is perfectly baked and that is slightly darker with a bit of browning. But if this happens to you, just cut off the edges and you're good to go. So that's the Parmesan. I now want to show you the coconut flour version. And to me, there's virtually no difference. The coconut flour is maybe one shade darker, and look at this, guys, there is absolutely no browning on the edges. And it did take a lot of experimentation to get the temperature and the times right, but look at that, you should get exactly the same result as me. And now I'm going to show you the almond flour version. So I'll just try and include the Parmesan in that. So here we go, Parmesan, coconut flour, almond flour. As you can see here, there is virtually no difference, and you're not compromising in any way, shape or form if you choose one or the other recipe. Okay, so I want to give you every possible tip that I can, you know, so you can have success with this recipe at home. So I'm going to use my worst pasta sheet and just work with this. And first, like we said before, I'm going to cut off the edges, and you can see it, you know, it's pretty solid and it doesn't stick to your pizza cutter. So I'm just going to trim off the edges. And now literally, you know, cut whatever shape you want. And I'll do fettuccine with this one, just because fettuccine is quite fast. You can do it that way, or you could roll it up. Now, because this one is actually overcooked, I'm not sure if it's going to crack, but let's find out together. Okay, so with this one, I rolled it up, and now you're literally going to cut it like that. And let's take a cracked one, just so you can see. Looks so good. Pasta. Beautiful. Of course, if you're a really good cook or baker and you've got your pasta sheet perfect, I'm going to quickly slice this up just to show you whether it cracks or not. Just one tip, when you are rolling it up, don't tuck it in like tight, just tuck it in gently so that, you know, it doesn't crack. The other thing I want to show you, just to so you can get an idea of the consistency and also what to expect with these noodles. What I was saying about not rolling it up too tightly, if you actually press it together like that, they actually do break. That's why you want to do a big roll rather than a tighter one. Almond flour, done. For your coconut flour, I'll do the same thing and then set it aside. it's probably going to turn out exactly the same. I also wanted to say that if you want to extrude this through a pasta machine, you can. It's literally a sheet of pasta. I mean, it is as sticky as cheeses, I would say. Slightly sticky, but not to the point where your hands, get messy. Now I'm going to show you how to combine your pasta with sauces. I've made a simple chicken Alfredo sauce, and now first we're going to test the Parmesan version. You can see my sauce is bubbling, and literally I'm going to add the Parmesan version to the sauce and just stir it in. And you can add your cheese on top or whatever. And do take note, this is not melting, which is awesome. And literally, once you've stirred it in like that, you turn off the heat and your pasta is ready, because essentially this is cooked pasta already. So you don't need to recook it as such. I've made 3 lots of my sauce just for this experiment, and now I'm going to turn on the heat and let that come up to boiling, just because we're testing out whether this pasta is going to dissolve in the hot sauce. Now I'm adding the coconut flour version. Should be enough. And giving it a stir. It smells so good in here, guys. And literally, if you want the recipe to this Alfredo sauce, here's the link for you now. I just omitted the broccoli. So that is the recipe to a chicken Alfredo sauce. Switch off the heat and ready to pop into your plate or your bowl. And lastly, we're going to add our almond flour version. Give it a stir. And turn off the heat. Oh my god, like seriously, there's a slight color variation in them all, but we knew that, right? So I just can't wait. Fabulous. So here you go. We have shown you a keto pasta that's for everyone. No flour, almond flour or coconut flour version. I feel like this keto pasta is on steroids, and I think I'm going to call it 2.0 version, because it is just everything about it is fabulous. You can put it through your pasta machine. You can freeze it. You can store it in the fridge for 3 days. It's not going to melt in your sauce. And the macros are great for keto. I really hope you get to try this pasta. I'm pretty confident that you will love it. Do drop me a comment down below. If you have any questions, I'd love to help you out. Or if you get to make it and you want to give me some feedback, that'd be awesome for everyone to see. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and be well.